Could it be? Could it be? It is out of here!
And it's a no-hitter! Unbelievable! Ruiz and Halladay embrace!
World champions!
It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top!
We're talking about the Lions here. Say!
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Specific Jawns podcast, the premier Phillies podcast on the internet, maybe not in terms of views or comments or listens or shares or any of that, but in terms of quality and other unmeasurable metrics that are completely objective, we are the best, and I will die on that hill. Your host, Pat Barker, joined, as always, by a couple of my good Jawn friends. In this case, you saw him last episode making his debut. It is the man known as Bubba. And on the other side of the screen, making his Specific Jawns podcast debut, the great Brendan Flounders, our Clearwater correspondent. Welcome to the show, your debut episode, Brendan. It's been a long time coming and a lot of technical issues today, but you're here.
I'm excited. Hey, Jawn Nation, what's up?
There we go. There we go. Keeping it
Did that come
short.
over clear?
That came over clear. Yeah, nicely done. Brendan is went through 3 devices to get on screen here, but we made it work. And Bubba, welcome back to the program, man. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was good, man. First warm day in Philly. Hit 70 degrees today, and it's just, vibes were awesome. It's going to be sunny for the next couple days, nice and 70 as well. So, hey, we're living the life here in Philly until there's another cold wave coming and an impossible snowstorm in like 2 weeks. So we'll see. But hey, you know what? Today was great, so I can't complain.
I was going to say, because I live in LA and Brendan lives in Florida now. Both, obviously, we were Philly people. And that first day of spring is like the best day of the year. But you know that you have to enjoy every moment of it because there is another wave of ice and snow coming almost always for no reason. So good luck with that, I guess. This was going to be, frankly, a couple days ago, we were talking in the group chat and I was like, I don't know, man, it's that time of spring. There's not much to talk about. We might have to do, some of that podcast fluff where, and I hate to designate it as such because we will have to do it in the future where we get on and we're like, all right, top 64 ballpark snacks tournament. When we do that, you know that there's nothing else going on. And I thought we were going to have to get into that this week. But fortunately, some things happened over the last couple days, some Phillies and Phillies adjacent stuff that I'm excited to talk about. And I want to start with Captain America himself, Kyle Schwarber. At the time of this recording, it was last night. By the time you listen to this, it'll probably be 2 days ago. Locked in an impossibly tight game with the British. Trailing 1-0 to Great Britain heading into the 5th, we seemed unable to hit the dazzling array of off-speed stuff from the British arms, and then the U.S. tied the game on a wild pitch, and then Kyle Schwarber came up, absolutely vaporized the ball to right field, did what he does best. It's been so fun to watch, and he did it on the American stage, and then from that point on, the route was on. The U.S. picks up a 9-1 win. I just want to ask you guys, without spoiling how I felt about it, I'll get into it, but were you watching the game? Were you jumping up and down? Were you chanting USA? Or is this just some sideshow nonsense that means nothing to you?
I mean, I did see Schwarber hit the home run live, and I was pretty excited. I was out at a bar, and everyone did get, the people who were watching the game were excited for it as well. I watched it a few more times today, and honestly, it's electric. It's so much fun to watch that guy swing a bat, and he just absolutely crushed that ball. They said it went 427 feet, which doesn't feel like it's accurate. That felt like a 450-foot bomb at least. So, but this is a great reason to have the World Baseball Classic. To be this excited about baseball in March, it's nice. I like that.
I mean, it was such a momentum shift. Granted, that wild pitch where they tied it was great, but just that one swing at the bat, and then I think Judge was knocking down the left field scoreboard after that, and they just rallied so much, and then they just went on that tear. There were a lot of close calls in last night's game too. I mean, there's a bunch of reviews and stuff, but it definitely felt like one of the more exciting the World Baseball Classic games I've seen.
Yeah, and I think just what you were speaking to, Bubba, the ability that that guy has to hit a baseball. I mean, obviously it's worth 1 run, or in this case 2 runs, but he hits balls so hard and so far that they demoralize the other team. I feel like we've seen it time and time again where a Schwarber home run, it feels like psychologically it does more damage. Like when he hit that ball off of Darvish in the NLCS in 2022 that went 490 feet into the upper deck at Petco, which nobody ever reaches. It just felt like the series was over. When he was out here for the NLDS last year, and the only game the Phillies won, that was a 1-0 game in the fourth. And then he hit a ball out of Dodger Stadium. And I'm telling you, the whole stadium was like, wow, it's over. He just has the ability to hit a ball so hard that it crushes the other team. And he comes up with home runs at the biggest times on the biggest stages. He had a big WBC home run a few years ago, also against Darvish. And look, the last thing I would ever want to do is make this show too political or anything like that. But I think we all keep an eye on the news. We know some different things that are going on with wars and, other things, and sex islands and all sorts of things where you wake up, and I'll just speak for myself. Some days I wake up and I read the news and I'm like, man, today is not one of those days where I'm flying the U.S. flag proudly. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of conflicting emotions, but the moment that guy hits a ball 110 miles an hour, I'm throwing on the powdered wig, flag over the back. Like, I am just all the way in. The only thing I think that could save our country at this point is the sweet, sweet swing of Kyle Schwarber. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy, but boy, did he respond.
I mean, is it more pressure than depending on Kyle Schwarber to save our upcoming season? Because we're pretty much just running it back again, and he's our big addition, even though he was already on the team. So we're kind of putting the same pressure on him here, see what he can do.
That's fair. That's fair. Either way, I mean, he always seems like he's up for the challenge. And he's just, the same no matter what. And so far in the WBC, only been 2 games, but he's hitting 500, OPS over 1,500. Bryce has struggled a little bit. Picked up 1 hit in each of the first couple games. It was nice to see Brad Keller also come in for Team USA after we saw old friend of the team, friend of the pod, friend of the show, Vance Worley come in. Known British entity Vance Worley coming in a decade after he retired. That's what by the way, I love that off topic about the WBC. The kid who came in on Brazil, who was 17 years old and got judged to hit into the double play. The fact that Vance Worley is somehow on the same team as Jazz Chisholm, and it makes sense. The fact that Nolan Arenado was on Team USA 2 WBCs in a row, now he's Puerto Rican. The fact that Clayton Kershaw retired, but he's on the team for some reason. It's all just a bunch of nonsense, but I kind of love it. But Brad Keller coming in, very impressive 9th inning, 1-2-3 with a couple of strikeouts. What'd you guys think? Was that your first taste of Brad Keller as a Philly? Because it was for me. I hadn't seen any of his spring stuff, and I was impressed.
Yep, 100%. And I liked what I saw.
Yeah, same here. First time really getting a glimpse of him, and it's nice. Maybe our bullpen looks like it's going to take a big step forward this year, or at least I hope it will. So we really could have a solid 7, 8, 9, defined roles, which I think would really help everyone. And Keller could be a great piece for that. So very happy to see him looking this good so far.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen is definitely one of those things that, is not flashy, but in today's game means probably as much as any other unit. And when you look at Duran and Keller and Alvarado, and of course, big asterisk on all these guys' health and not taking steroids. But theoretically, this could be one of the better bullpens that we've ever had. Other Phillies in the WBC, Dante Nori, Team Italy, who I believe our own Mike Sambuco is watching. No, he's watching Mexico versus Brazil. I think he's going to get to see a little bit of Team Italy. I know he was excited to see Dante Nori up close. He hit 2 home runs against Brazil. Chris Sanchez got absolutely rocked for the Dominican Republic. With that offense, it doesn't matter. I think they still won by mercy rule. And as we speak, Taiwan Walker is on the bump for Mexico. The WBC is cool because it's like, I feel like when you don't have it, and Brendan, it's probably different for you because you live down there, you go to a lot of spring games. But for me, I get so excited for spring training. And then once it starts and I'm watching games with, single and double A players, very quickly I'm just like, oh, I can't pretend to care about this. But the WBC is kind of a nice alternative. What are your thoughts, Brendan, on what have you been paying more attention to this off season so far, WBC or spring?
Honestly, I've been trying to balance it out because with the World Baseball Classic, it almost if you date yourself back to Little League days when they would always have the All-Star game and like obviously all the best players were going to go play that one game, all the scrubs or not as good players would always keep playing, or younger kids, whatever the case may be, and that's kind of an undertone I'm seeing. I've gone to a couple of the spring training games recently. Honestly, aside from Marsh and Bone, not a whole lot of starters that have been at these games. Yeah, sometimes they've been a split squad, so that's kind of a reason for that. But it's been enjoyable going to the spring training games to kind of see, certain players, up and coming players, get their shot to be in that sort of spotlight, if you will, to kind of see if they can really rise to that challenge of being a part of the roster, or just giving them a better stage for that. There's been a lot more errors that I've noticed at spring training games, I think, as a result. But I also do like seeing, the top tier players. Like you get Harper, you get Schwarber, you get them with Judge, you get them with, some of these other top tier players go against other top tier pitching. And I think that's kind of an important thing. It's like constant all-star games. You're getting your swings at the plate against, very top quality pitching. So maybe that translates to a better start to the season for those players that were participating. Overall, the WBC is considerably more exciting, but it is just nice being able to get out into the stands again and just be at the field and get, overpriced beer and crazy overpriced other concessions. But yeah, I've been trying to balance it out because I mean, tis the season,
And it is good because you take some of those starters off of the field, send them down to Houston and Miami. It does create a situation where Otto Kemp is going to play pretty much every day. And, Brian De La Cruz and guys like that, they're going to get into the lineup who have a shot, theoretically, at making the team, which could include Garrett Stubbs. We're going to get to that in a minute. The last WBC thing I want to do, though, I want to throw this at you guys as a hypothetical. Of course, last WBC ended Shohei Ohtani, then on the Angels, facing off on the mound against his teammate Mike Trout. It was the picture perfect ending. You'll never be able to recreate it in the WBC. There's no other scenario in my mind that involves two teammates that would come close to that. But I guess the Phillies version would be USA versus Dominican Republic, Chris Sanchez on the mound, and Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber due up in the inning. I start thinking about that and I have a little bit of a panic attack. Just even dealing with that theoretical, it like really makes me nervous. I wanted to ask you guys, like, what is that something you even want to see, or is that a Pandora's box you would rather not open?
Nope.
I mean, I would love to see it, to be completely honest, because I think Chris Sanchez would strike out Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. And yeah, maybe Phillies fans don't want to see that happen, and Bryce himself probably doesn't want to see that happen, but I would love it just because Chris Sanchez deserves all the respect and credit. He deserves it all. He's still underrated, I think, in certain ways, and I think he'll just get better and better. He'll keep getting better this year. So I would love to see that happen. I think that would be electric, but obviously, yeah, nothing's ever going to come close to the Ohtani Trout. That's like a Hollywood ending right there. So it's tough to compete with that, but still, I would love to see it personally. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I look at it from like a paternal standpoint of like, if I had two kids that were, one's a pitcher, one's a batter, I don't know. I don't see how you could possibly come out of that in a positive light. Cause like, I feel like if that's Harper at the plate with Sanchez pitching and he goes down looking or something, the whole elite thing will just, spiral out of control. Like, I feel like I would rather have other team stars facing off in that scenario, or Sanchez being the one that wins it, not against a Philly player. But that's just me.
I mean, Jason and Travis Kelce's mom made it work. So she parlayed that into a pretty good shtick. So shout out to Mama Kelsey. I think my biggest concern comes from every now and then I just randomly flash back to 2022 when Blake Snell on the Padres at the time hit Harper in the hand with the pitch, and we thought he was gone for the season. He came back, of course, for the electric playoff run, but God, I just can't imagine a worse way to lose a player than friendly fire from one of your teammates in the WBC. That as improbable as that is, that's the one where I'm just like, I don't even want to mess with that. It's like a monkey's paw type of thing that I'd rather not deal with. But that being said, if it happens, I will be glued to the TV. I'm rooting for just good baseball. That's the beautiful thing about the WBC. These little side stories of there was a dude from the Czech Republic a few years ago who was he was like an electrician, and he struck out Ohtani, which is incredible. And like I say, the 17-year-old who got judged to hit into the double play, Manny Ramirez's kid on Team Brazil hitting 2 home runs. I love that stuff. So great stuff on the WBC. If you're not watching, make sure you tune in and start watching that because it is a lot of fun. Let's shift gears to a guy who is in camp this year, and he has been one of the 3 names that I feel like the Phillies are really leaning on pretty heavily, maybe psychologically more than anything, to combat the narrative that we're just running it back. Of course, there's Justin Crawford, Andrew Painter, and Aidan Miller. And while the first 2 have made some strides this spring and, made some good headlines, Aidan Miller's headline, unfortunately, is lingering back issues, no timetable for return. I have lingering back issues. I am 42 and just like a kind of chunky Hollywood writer. This guy's a 21-year-old professional athlete with lingering back issues. That's troubling, right? Am I crazy for feeling that way?
I mean, look, Miller was getting a little bit of hype. He was his hype train was kind of starting to take off a little bit coming into spring training here. I was kind of most excited to see him out of Painter, Crawford, and Miller. I was kind of most excited to see what he could do because I didn't really know too much about him, and now it's disappointing not to be able to see him. Obviously, this is the perfect time to get to see him. But then, yeah, I mean, 21 years old, lower back issues. That just is not a good sign at all. I mean, the Phillies can say they have zero concern, but that's exactly what any team would say when they don't know what's going on. Like, you just have to assume he's going to get better, and that you can help him. But there's just a lot of unknowns in this situation that really am not excited about, considering how top heavy our farm system is. We really need something out of it. We could really use production from him this year, I think.
I mean, my first thought when getting that news about the back soreness, exactly what you said, Barker, is like, dear God, the he's a kid and he's already having back issues. We need him to play shortstop or third base, one of the most mobile positions out there. Not the most confidence building sort of report. And the things I've read, they're saying it's a minor setback, but it doesn't feel so minor to me. But
I feel like minor setback is just what they have to say. I feel like he could get hit by a train tomorrow and they would call it a minor setback. That's just how teams operate. They don't want the fan base panicking. They don't want the negative press. They don't want to get in his head. I mean, frankly, I would protect him by saying it. I'm not going to come out and be like, oh yeah, the kid's fucked. That can't be good for him to hear. So you have to tell him like, oh yeah, dude, it's fine. It's no problem. But this ended his 2025 season prematurely. It is stalling his 2026 season. They say there's no timetable. Bubba, I think you put in the group chat like the direct quote, which was something like, our goal is just to get him back on the field and make him a productive like baseball player or something like that.
Yeah, just saying, like, we just want to see him back on the field, which sounds, it's like, yeah, that's not what you want to hear from an up-and-coming prospect. That sounds like a 40-year-old trying to come back from injury, not great sign, not a great sign.
It's the exact same thing I've been hearing this spring training about Chris Bryant, who has a degenerative back condition that is going to force him to retire. I believe he will never play baseball again. He can't come out and retire now because then he can't collect the remainder of his contract. You'll probably get like a Strasburg kind of thing where everybody knows he's retired, but they can't say it until they like work out a deal or whatever. But yeah, to hear that kind of language about a 21-year-old is it's alarming. And it really just highlights the fact that the Phillies have had remarkably good health, unlike, the Sixers or somebody like that who it feels like are constantly bitten by the injury bug. The Phillies prospects have just turned out to be bad at baseball. This is a new one for me.
But the health is good.
The health has been good. Yeah. I guess we can add in the positives here. We glossed over them a minute ago. Justin Crawford has been a little bit cold since our last episode, but I think he showed enough just in the first week to kind of ease the concerns about him playing center field. And Andrew Painter is now 2 outings in. He threw two shutout innings against the Yankees and 3 scoreless, trading zeros with Max Scherzer the other day. So he has certainly looked good coming off of his own injury. But certainly troubling. Let's just say that. I'll just to get your numbers on the record to hold your feet to the fire. Scale of 1 to 10. How concerned are you about Aidan Miller's health right now?
I'd go 6 out of 10 just because back issues for a 21-year-old, it just doesn't really add up and doesn't sound like a good thing. It's not just something that, it's just like, oh, he broke a bone, he'll be fine, he's young. It concerns me, and then not knowing more about it, the fact that it ended his 2025 season, he didn't play in the fall league either, it's just, yeah, not feeling great about it, so I'm leaning a little more pessimistic, so 6 out of 10.
I'd go probably about 4, and I'll probably stay there until I hear more, more reports about it. I'm hoping that he didn't get hit by a train and they're just saying it's a minor setback, but we'll see what comes of the next couple weeks. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that we get a little bit of string of luck in this regard. So cautiously optimistic. That's what I'll say.
You and me both, and God bless the man who could be a Philadelphia fan and yet somehow remain cautiously optimistic. That feels crazy, but I respect it. Well, one potential avenue in case we need more third basemen seems like it might be third string catcher Garrett Stubbs. Rob Thompson, and this is one of the more bizarre, quotes I've ever seen. He basically said, yeah, we're working out Garrett Stubbs in the field. Not right now because he's busy playing for Team Israel. Had a triple in their first game. So Israeli superstar Garrett Stubbs, when he returns to Clearwater, will be continuing his workout as a first baseman, third baseman, and left fielder. I guess in an effort to, give him a little bit more versatility. And Thompson also said, there's nothing that says we can't carry 3 catchers on the roster, which I mentioned in the group chat is kind of like the real life equivalent of there's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't play basketball. I mean, sure, I suppose you could do that. It feels like a team with this payroll and these expectations should not be considering carrying a third catcher and playing him at 3 other positions that he has essentially never played before. But what do I know? Are you guys buying or selling on the Garrett Stubbs utility superstar conversation?
Are we sure that Stubbs isn't related to Topper? Because this definitely feels like it's like a coach's son or relative. It's like, oh no, we'll try him here, we'll try him there. I don't get it. Catchers should not play the infield or the outfield. They're catchers. They got bad knees. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'll defer to Bubba for his comments because honestly, I'm more of a Marchand fan, anyways. But that's just me.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we overpaid JT this offseason, and then we're going to be like, oh, and we need 3 catchers as well. Doesn't really add up there. I mean, look, Stubbs is great. He's a great like energy guy for the clubhouse and all that. Like, yeah, I don't mind him being up there, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we're gonna probably have some issues, some depth issues in the outfield with Rojas getting suspended. We're probably going to need the roster spots that we can get. So I don't know if carrying 3 catchers is realistically a good idea. I don't really think they have really any intentions of ever playing Stubbs in anywhere besides catcher. This is just a very much a spring training what if kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, the real thing for me is just overpaying JT and then being like, oh, and we're still going to carry 2 other catchers. It just doesn't really make any sense. I don't know what the Phillies are thinking here.
No, it doesn't make sense on any level. I mean, JT, if nothing else, has caught more innings than anybody else over the last 5 years, 10 years. Like, that is kind of his thing. He's very, very durable. He does not want to sit out. We don't get a lot of work for our one backup catcher. Adding a second one, unless the roster was positioned differently. If it's like, okay, we want to start getting JT off his feet more, we could DH him at times, we could play him at first base at times, get him a little time off from behind the plate. We got Schwarber and Harper, so he's not doing either of those things. JT is going to be the full-time catcher, and we're going to have a backup, and that's it. There's no need for anything else. If you had a guy who could catch and do these other things, Isaiah Kiner Falefa, for instance, somebody like that, who can't do it now, but earlier on in his career he could, okay, fine. I love positional versatility. I love it. But taking a 31-year-old catcher and being like, well, what if we tried to teach him other positions? It just seems foolish to me. It seems like a waste of time when you could go out and spend literally $1 million and get somebody. You have them on the roster. Dylan Moore, while not a great hitter, is better than Garrett Stubbs and plays Gold Glove defense at any number of positions. So why you would try to like force this out of Stubbs? I mean, this is a story we usually hear about. Like, we heard this when Ryan Howard was blocked by Jim Thome. And they were like, yeah, they're going to try to teach Howard the outfield. Because it's like, we have to get his bat in the lineup. If you're sitting there like, we have to get Garrett Stubbs' bat in the lineup, things have gone horribly wrong. Yeah. So I really hope that we never have to hear any more about this ever again. For perspective, in his 4 seasons with the Phillies, Stubbs has not played first base or third base. He has played 2 innings in the outfield, which is not quite as many as the 8 he has pitched. So his second most popular position has been pitcher. This does not seem like the right course of action here. And I can't believe we were willing to spend all that money on Bichette, and then when we lost him, we have not spent any of it on somebody who could actually do what we're trying to convert Garrett Stubbs into right now.
It's actually a storyline that I'm very intrigued with just because how bizarre it is. I mean, I just don't understand it, even slightly. But maybe they know something I don't. Probably not, but, you know.
Well, you have been there firsthand to witness the existing infielders and outfielders that we have on the roster. Not the guys that Stubbs would be competing with for 26 man on the bench roles, but rather, you alluded to them earlier, Brandon Marsh, Alec Boehm. You've been there, you've seen it. I trust your scouting reports. I'm going to go to you now for a segment we call Brendan Flounders Clearwater Correspondent. I want you to give us the spring training report. What have you witnessed firsthand? Who have you been impressed by? Who has disappointed you? Go.
Well, honestly, the funny thing about the whole Stubbs thing, and it's a good transition point for this, in the 2 more recent games I've been to, I went to Phillies versus the Tigers up in Lakeland, Florida. And I think it was the first inning. There was a pretty routine grounder right at the third baseline, and boom, just I don't know, it just went right off of his glove, other direction. Guy got a double out of it, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, okay, it's spring training, not a huge deal. But then every at bat is like, went down looking, popped out. Like, it just didn't seem like mentally was really, really engaged in the game. Now, granted, it was also a split roster that day, so maybe he was just taking a day off, so to speak. But in the Phillies versus Rays game I went to last week in Port Charlotte, Brandon Marsh in right field, number one. I think he committed 2 errors. It might have been 3 total. I actually have to double check. But a routine pop up to right field. He didn't have to probably run more than, I don't know, like 20 feet, 30 feet, right off the tip of his glove in the other direction. And guy got a double out. Again, like, it's sloppy. I think there definitely has been a disconnect from the regular starters that have been playing. Like, I've just been seeing very sloppy play, a lot of errors. But for some of the up and comers, like Marchand being one, now granted, I haven't seen his whole, preseason field of work here, but the games that I've been to, he has had some solid plate appearances. Maybe he's not getting on base every time, but they're quality at bats.
Mhm.
And my whole thing is, when at the plate, not taking, not taking first pitch swings, taking the pitch, trying to see, what the pitcher's dealing out. There's been some decent discipline there. Not even just with him, some of the other players. Definitely, Crawford has looked great in the field in the games that I've been at. He seems like he has really good, positioning. He's making some good relay throws. And I don't know. I think overall, I'm still waiting to kind of like just get a little bit more excited about seeing it live. It definitely doesn't feel like it's a regular season game by any stretch.
Yeah.
But I think after the World Baseball Classic is done, and I don't even know how many games that they would have left to report back to Clearwater, and actually have a couple more games prior to the season opener. But I'd be very curious to see where the dynamic changes will be at that given time. The one constant thing that I've seen through spring training that I actually feel surprisingly optimistic about, pitching has actually looked pretty darn good. There's, aside from some of those errors and everything, the pitching has been, better than I was anticipating. But I was mentioning in the group chat too, I actually really love the pitch review challenge thing that they're doing now. It's seamless. I mean, there's been a couple really good scenarios where we thought we got a strike across the plate. They call for the review. It takes less than 10 seconds. It's great.
Yeah.
And I think it helps pace of play. I think it helps, prevent arguments, at the plate. Definitely keeps the game moving along too. And that's another cool element.
Yeah, I spoke on my other podcast, Baseball Buddies with Pat and Jeff, where we talk about, the whole scope of baseball. I really think that anybody who is anti-automatic ball strike, at this point, I think that there are some people who are just programmed to complain about whatever Rob Manfred does. I think if you look at the rule changes exclusively, because there's all sorts of other stuff. The fact that in the middle of an at-bat, they'll be like, hey, why don't you guys go gamble on this right now? Here's how you do it. Like, I hate that. I hate how in bed they are with, like, the gambling apps and everything. There are lots of things that I am concerned about, the upcoming lockout. But if you just go on the field things, other than maybe the ghost runner in extra innings, which I think you can make a case for,
Yeah.
I don't see how you look at any of this and say that it's bad. Banning the shift has been incredible. I don't ever want to see the shift come back.
The pitch clock is great.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And the reason I know it's good is because in order to argue against the things Rob Manfred has done, you have to argue on behalf of things that suck. You have to be like, well, I like the human element. I like when umpires make mistakes. Like, the human element is good. I like when there's like an extra 30 minutes of them standing around. That's like that's baseball. It's like, okay, if that's the hill you're willing to die on, fine. But I'm telling you, it has been, in my mind, way better. And I love the ABS system. Bubba, let me ask you this, because when Brendan was talking, I actually went back and I was trying to find the game in question with Marsh playing right field because I missed the game. And I see it here. They only give him credit for one error. But I'm sure there were a couple of other misplays out there. Let me ask you this. Why the hell is Brandon Marsh out there to begin with in right field?
Yeah, that was also, I wasn't aware he had played in right field, that had happened. And that was my first thought too. What is he doing in right field? Is he going to be our backup right fielder? Is that the plan? I mean,
No, that's Stubbs.
I feel so much better. I mean, yeah, I mean, sure, spring training is the time you can play people at different, get them experience at different positions. But I was very surprised to hear that he's playing right field all of a sudden too. Marsh has, the athleticism, but, I don't know. I don't know if he has technically the best IQ. So therefore, maybe if he doesn't have the innings also in right field, he's just not going to be prepared to track the ball. It's going to be a little bit differently. It might come off the bat differently. So I'm very surprised by it. But if this is what we're going to be looking forward to this season, I can't wait. Get rid of Nick and then replace it with.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, I don't think there's any way he could be worse than Nick Castellanos in right field. I believe that. But Adolis Garcia is, look, I know he's going to be in right field pretty much every day. I understand that. This is a spring training overreaction. I just don't. It's not ideal to be like, well, our center fielder is a guy who, profiles more ideally as a corner outfielder. And our left fielder is a converted center fielder who wasn't good enough out there, but we're going to play him a little bit in right. And then maybe the backup catcher will be out there because our guy with a 350 OPS was on steroids. He needed steroids for the 350 OPS, so he's out now. It just feels like there should be something better than that. I'm trying not to be negative because Lord knows we could do that every episode and be like, why didn't Dave spend more money? And that is the backbone of everything we're saying. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just not a ton of reasons for optimism out there. I will say though, Alec Boehm, he's hitting really well this spring, hitting over 300. Otto Kemp hit a home run today. His OPS is up near 1,000. I am buying the Otto Kemp hype. I am in on Otto Kemp as a guy who can play a little bit of infield and outfield. I think my biggest concern is without Rojas, we don't have a true backup center fielder and we don't have a true backup right fielder. We have a team full of left fielders on the bench and left fielders and utility guys. So I would love to see an improvement there, but I mean, I guess it is what it is.
Should have re-signed Bader.
Boy, that would have been nice. That would have been nice.
He was available at that price wasn't bad. You got $10.5 million for 2 years. Yeah, come on, that's great. Or I mean, 20 million, but 10.5 per year.
It's truly one of those things that, I guess they feel confident in this group, and Bader is obviously good enough to still start, and they were not willing to promise him, starting time. And you got to get Crawford in there. I'm not sold on Marsh. That's what it boils down to for me.
Yeah.
Anytime it's like, well, we could have done this thing, but then what would we have done with Brandon Marsh? My argument is always going to be, who cares? Who cares? I'm not sold on him. I hope that I'm wrong. But that's kind of where I'm at. Bubba, have you seen any of the spring training on TV from afar? Do you have any observations you want to get into before we move on to our final segment?
The only possible concern is Painter's velocity isn't quite up there, and that's the only, I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, he's got to be throwing 100 in spring training, because he is pitching well besides that. So I don't want, he's getting ground balls, he's getting these outs, and that's really what matters, and outs and out. But he doesn't really have many strikeouts. Velocity is a little down, but hopefully this is all just part of the plan, so I'm trying not to worry about that. Thankfully, we have Aidan Miller and his old man back to focus on instead. But besides that, that's about it. I do like Stott's playing well too. I like that Stott's playing well. I hope that continues.
Stott's been unbelievable. Yeah, Painter, 3 shutout innings against the Blue Jays without a single strikeout. I have noticed the velocity. He is coming off of the injury, of course, so sometimes you need time to kind of build back up. I'm going to try to not overreact to that, but that is something to watch. Absolutely. I agree with you there. Let's close the episode the way we have been the last few weeks. If you've been watching this, you know we have put together a list of the top 25 Phillies of the first 25 years of this century, 01 to 25. We've had a lot of controversy, and the most controversial person to make picks, our friend Carl, has now dodged the podcast 2 weeks in a row. Left me here to host. He was supposed to host tonight. He was here in LA. He was supposed to be taking a red eye back tonight. We had it all planned. And then a couple days ago, he said, I moved my flight up. So he's moving flights up to avoid explaining why he had Ryan Madsen 8 spots ahead of Brad Lidge. I don't like it, and he can't hide forever. Next week, we will grill him on everything. But for now, it'll be up to us to cover 15 through 11. And without further ado, here they are. We ended last week with 16, Pat Burrell. Leading into this week, number 15, Jason Worth. Number 14, Carlos Ruiz. 13, Shane Victorino. Got a lot of the 08 guys. And we're going to round out this week with 2 of the current players. Number 12, Aaron Nola. And number 11, JT Realmuto. So one more time, Worth 15, Ruiz 14, Victorino in the 13 spot, Aaron Nola at 12, JT Realmuto at 11. There's a couple of interesting names here and a couple of interesting rankings. Take it away, guys. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think Carl deserves a little bit more slack as far as you saying being he's the controversial one, because what you shared in the chat was that he had voted Chooch at number 8. However, you said Mike had him at 20? I don't understand that logic at all.
No. That was one of the biggest discrepancies because most of these guys, we all had them in the same kind of spot. But yeah, Carl had Carlos Ruiz at 8, which I feel like is kind of high. And Mike had him at 20, which is obviously criminally low. And he ends up smack dab in the middle at 14.
Yeah, I still even think 14 is too low. Like I would probably flirt more towards maybe at 10, top 10. I don't know, just based on fundamentals, and I don't know. Like he just has so many memorable moments for the Phils. Like, and he was always consistent too. I mean, I don't know what his numbers are at the top of my head, but when I think about some of the top catchers in the league in the past 25 years, I mean, he's easily in the top 10 for catchers alone. I don't know. That was probably the most surprising within the rankings there that you shared with us. Bob, anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, the Ruiz thing in my mind is, it's what do you value a little bit more? He wasn't the flashy all-star of any of those teams, but he was a critical piece of it. I mean, he caught all those great catchers. Caught up for all those great pitchers. And maybe he didn't have the flashy numbers that, he doesn't have the numbers, like he can't match JT's peak, for example. So then it's really what are you valuing more, pretty more like his peak, or do you care more about what he contributed overall? I ended up putting Ruiz at 15, and I actually had JT at 12, which feels like a gap, but like I do appreciate both of them. I do appreciate both what they had, but I mean, in my mind, JT was the best catcher in baseball for a couple straight years. I don't think Chooch I would ever have said was the best player, just because his bat, like he could come up with hits, but he wasn't the bat. He didn't have the power like JT does. So I kind of give JT a little bit of an edge there, but it's also just what do you value? What are you valuing more? For Carl, to make an argument for him for putting Chooch at 8, I think there's a lot of like nostalgia in that, in 2018, which I totally get. And Mike is, I think, a little more analytical. So he goes, Chooch, maybe anyone could have caught for those pitchers. Maybe, they were all that good and, he wasn't actually as that great. I mean, but he's still putting them in the top 20 or the top 25. So yeah, it really kind of just depends on, I think, what do you value more? But also I say this as someone who put Aaron Nola at 8. I think Aaron Nola, it's easy to hate on him very much. It's easy to hate on him because he's He's never really clicked with the fan base in a lot of ways, but he is second in strikeouts in franchise history. He's top 6 in WAR. He's top 7 in innings pitched and in wins. He's a fantastic pitcher, and he's had a long stretch, and that's what I really appreciate from him. That he's done it for that long. Sure, he's frustrating and done a lot, but that's, I don't know. So that was kind of my controversial pick, I would say, putting
It was a
Nola
head
up at 8.
it was a head scratcher for me because I hear from this group groan about Nola more than most players on this team. But you're right, Bub. I mean, he's got the numbers there, and honestly, when he's on, he is definitely an ace quality type of pitcher. But that's, he just has so many early inning struggles that it's hard. I was just very surprised to see him that high up. I would have thought he would have probably been flirting more back around, like, within the 20s. But hey, I don't disagree with it. I would put him in the same ranking as well.
Hey, 2018, he finished 3rd in Cy Young. In 2022, he finished 4th. So, it's not, he didn't just have like one peak. He's just been consistent and durable during the time when, he can't, he helped us through a tough time when we didn't have any aces after we had all, gotten used to having the 4 aces and all that. So I think that plays a big part for me. Like, the fact that he's stuck around this long and dealt with all of our bullshit, he gets some credit for me for that. So.
Yeah. Another thing, one thing I really like about this whole segment, Barker, is it actually makes me go back and like actually look at their field of work of some of these players. Like, oh, should that person be that high and so forth? And you know what? Honestly, with Jay Worth at 15, I looked at that. I'm like, okay, I can understand that a little bit. But then I actually went back and I looked at his numbers, and certainly within the 2009 season, there's a lot of stuff I forgot. And I think, he definitely was a player that maybe took for granted for a bit. I know he got hurt when he was with the Nationals early on, but I mean, I think he set a franchise record in 09 for like the most home runs in a postseason up to that point. But like a lot of things that I guess I didn't really fully understand the gravity of it in the time. And also, being, the spotlight being on like Utley or Howard or Rollins during that time period, I do think he kind of took a back seat, but definitely understand that that ranking for him too.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, even though you're taking a group of 5 seemingly random players, there's always going to be natural comparisons that came up. Last episode, it was Lidge versus Madsen. I think looking at these, Chooch versus JT is an obvious one. I think if you take into account that Pat Burrell was 16 last week, comparing Burrell to Worth to Victorino, the 3 starting outfielders on that 08 championship team, Victorino comes out ahead, slightly ahead of Worth, who was slightly ahead of Burrell. It's kind of interesting because, that was the end of Burrell's run. And it was kind of more of the start of the other guys, but I think and they had more playoff, moments still to come. Like you said, Worth went crazy in 09, but I think you could make a case that Burrell has the best Phillies body of work among the 3. And he came in 3rd. One thing that was interesting that you said, Brendan, was you expected Nola to be lower based on the way that we all talk about him. And one thing I found doing my own rankings is I was overcompensating in my head for guys that and I would imagine everybody has guys like this where you're like, I know this guy is good. I understand. You could show me all the numbers that support your argument that he is actually good. But in my mind, I watch him and I'm like, this guy sucks. It's the thing all fans do. And for me, a couple of those guys have been Castellanos and Nola. And I find myself also getting frustrated with Bohm and, sometimes Stott, maybe to a lesser degree. And I've been trying to figure out why. And I'm looking at Nola's numbers now. As you guys were talking, I pulled them up and I think I figured out the reason. It is because I get so frustrated with the Phillies player development. Very rarely do we see a guy who starts in the minors and he's hyped up and then he just kind of like ascends to really good ball player like Utley and Hamels. It happens. But for the most part, they die before they even reach the majors. But then there's the guys who reach the majors and have a great year, and you're like, all right, this is a building block. And then they never quite recreate it. Aaron Nola was third in Cy Young voting in 2018, I believe. He had like a 10 WAR or something crazy. He was up there. It was like him and DeGrom and someone else that I'm blanking on right now. And he was one of the 3 best pitchers in the league by a long shot. It was equivalent based on age and like stats to what Sanchez did last year. And I'll tell you this, if we keep Sanchez for another 7 years and none of them come close to what he did last year, the fan base is going to feel the exact same way about Christopher Sanchez that they do about Aaron Nola. Because it's like, we've seen you at your best and you never came close to reaching that again. In 2022, he came as close as he's ever going to come. And that even paled in comparison. And then he went out that year. He got smacked around in the NLCS and he got smacked around in the World Series in 22. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, have we seen the best of you? And if so, that's kind of a disappointment. So he becomes one of these guys that's like really difficult to rank, because I know all of the numbers are there. He is second in strikeouts, and he makes 32 starts a year before last year. He's been incredibly durable, and he throws 200 innings in an era where guys aren't throwing 200 innings. And I recognize the value in all that, but it just feels like, if you just get into the raw feeling, it's like this guy has been an underachiever for the last 7 years. Does that make sense?
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument to say. And I think I was trying to. In my mind, I thought that like I was biased. I had Nola lower on the list originally. Then I started thinking about that. I was like, I'm being too hard on him. This guy's really got a great body of work, so I bumped him up higher. But I think what you say is a good point. It's really just, I mean, he's giving him that big contract when he's already on the decline. I think it just puts a bad impression in everyone's mind. And yeah, then he does have those games where he just absolutely blows up. But back to the point, he's been durable, he's been consistent for a long time, and that was enough for me that I felt he deserved a top 10 ranking for at least for top 25 Phillies for this century.
That's fair. That's fair. I can't argue with it. Just for context, to go through his ERAs starting in that 2018 season, which remains his only All-Star season. He posted a 2.37 ERA that year. Next year, it was up a run and a half to 3.87. COVID shortened 2020 season, he was back down to 3.28. Coming out of COVID, 4.63. Then he got down to 3.25 in 2022, but then he went back up to 4.46. 357, and then last year, injury plague season, he still managed to make 17 starts, which was, I didn't remember him making that many. I blocked most of them out, PTSD, and posted an ERA of 6.01. So now you're looking at a guy 33 years old with a lot of innings under his belt, coming off of the worst season of his career and an injury. I would love nothing more than to be proven wrong by Aaron Nola and have him come out and just shove this season and really get back to that kind of form that he has flashed a couple times. I hope it happens. I guess we'll leave it at that. As far as like the JT versus Chooch thing, this is it's not just us. I saw an Instagram post from some other Phillies account a few days ago where they posted their all-time Phillies team, and they had Real Muto as the starting catcher, and people in the comments were, going off on that. And I do think it comes down to what you value more. I think JT and Chooch are both superb defensive catchers. JT was obviously better with the bat. For Chooch, there is a lot of nostalgia, and he was smack dab in the middle of, a lot of great moments in Phillies history. And it wasn't just he was on the field, and he has a ring. The ring changes a lot. The ring changes a lot. I really feel like if that 2008 team did not win that championship, you could subtract 3 spots on this list for basically everybody who was on that team. Certainly the Victorinos and Chooches of the world, the guys on the periphery, the Brett Myers and people like that, without that ring, they are not thought of nearly as highly. But that's not to say that Chooch didn't do great things. His offense did pick up, coincidentally around when he got popped for steroids. I don't know. Maybe there's a, correlation there. I'm not sure. Who knows? But catching the Halladay no-hitter and scoring on the Rollins double against the Dodgers in the NLCS. And he had a walk-off hit in the '08 World Series. It went 35 feet, but it was still a walk-off hit at like 2 o'clock in the morning, that little dribbler. And I remember he had a homer off of Andy Pettitte in the '09 World Series. So he was carrying his weight. He was doing his thing. And, I'm not mad at 14, and if I had to pick between Carl and Mike, I would err more on the side of the 8 than the 20, certainly.
I hope we have an honorable mention list. We wait till the end, but I had some on here. I know I didn't submit my players, and I apologize. Got freaking kids and all that. But I do have some that I know for a fact are not on this list. And I'm, could at least give you guys a good laugh for some of them, but some of them I do think should have been on the list.
Well, I'll tell you what. I wanted this to go about an hour. According to my clock, we're at 55:35. Brendan, why don't you throw a couple names at us? Go.
All right. Well, the one that's really close and dear to my heart, I'm not surprised he's not on the list, but I think he just had such an iconic moment in Phillies history. Just kind of, encapsulated the Philly fan spirit, was Aaron Rowand. He was only here for 2 seasons, and that play in center field where he busts his face and like that, just I went out and bought a jersey the next day. I'm like, dude, I love the grit of this guy, and also I loved he had a really dominating plate appearance. His stance was always like, it just seemed he got some power behind those. And like he went off to have a fairly decent numbers. He was only with us 2 seasons.
Yeah.
He made All-Stars his second season with us. It was 07. And pretty good numbers. I was looking it up just for the heck of it. But he hit over 300 that season. And that's, not no easy task. His WAR was 5.1. And I don't know. I just he seemed like a good clubhouse guy too. Granted, top 25. I'm not surprised he's not in there, but he just was someone that I always really enjoyed watching play. And if you made the list, I would have been happy, but I'm not butthurt defending it either. But I wanted to at least throw him out there for honorable mention.
I love it. I take it back. Don't give us any more names because I want to talk about Aaron Rowand here. I thought you were about to say something really dumb when you were like, he's part of one of the biggest moments, and I thought it was going to be Wilson Valdez pitching or Vince Velasquez playing left field. I thought I was going to have to get mad and we were going to have to fight.
I was hoping for stairs, yeah.
Stairs for sure. But Aaron Rowand is a really interesting name. Obviously, 2 years is probably not going to get the job done, but I will say, maybe if you came up with a team of the most Philly guys to ever play for the Phillies, that might be your starting center fielder. Not just the catch, but the flip on the Ricky Waters quote, the next day, the for who, for what, for who, for my teammates, for what, to win. Oh, pump that right into my veins.
Yeah, I completely agree. If that you were doing like most Philly encapsulated the Philly character, Aaron Rowand for sure. If he played any more than 2 seasons for us, then he would have a much better chance of cracking this list. Great honorable mention by Brendan. He really did embody it. I mean, it's not hard to love Philly. You just got to run your face into a metal post and then we'll love you. Come on. What's so hard to do about that?
Absolutely. By the way, I love how Brendan treated that like a walk-off homer. Yeah. He dropped Rowand and then fucking left. That's great.
I did just pull up Rowand's numbers because I was looking at it. I wanted to see how well he did with the Giants after he left us in 07, and his numbers fell off right away. He went from 5.1 WAR in 2007 to 0.6 in 2008. I mean, yeah, so he definitely, it seemed like he liked playing in Philly is what I'm getting at. But it would have been nice, if we could have kept him around a little longer. But also, then that would have blocked maybe Shane Victorino in a way. And then if we don't get the Shane Victorino hitting a grand slam off CC, I was at that game, and it's still the best Phillies in stadium moment I've ever been a part of. I mean, I do love Rowand, but then I also love Victorino. I had him at 13. We didn't really talk about Victorino so much, so I'm just throwing him in here. But I do love him very much, and he had all the tools, and I'm hoping Justin Crawford can be anything like Shane Victorino, and that would be a huge plus.
It's an interesting sliding doors thing where, like, when we got Victorino, it was a Rule 5 pickup, and I don't think anybody expected, like, oh, yeah, this guy will be starting and hitting second or sixth, depending on the lineup, for a World Series champion. And, you know, he was maddening at times. He gave up switch hitting later in his career, which I wish he had done sooner. He could not hit the ball left-handed, and yet, other than the Sabathia homer, his second biggest hit as a Philly was in the Stairs game. A lot of people forget, they remember Stairs deep into the night. Well, the reason that game was even tied in the first place was because a left-handed hitting Shane Victorino hit a line drive that somehow snuck into the Phillies bullpen in right field. It was one of the only home runs he ever hit left-handed. Yeah, I was very frustrated many times by Shane Victorino, but another guy who's just been a part of like so many great moments. But that is a real like sliding doors thing. If he doesn't blossom into the player that he ends up becoming, and remember, he was the right fielder at that time because we knew we had to move on from Abreu. They put Victorino in right field. They had Rowan in center. Then they moved Victorino to center, and that's how you get Worth on the team. And obviously it all worked out, but I do think there's a parallel universe where Aaron Rowan wins a championship with Philadelphia, and then maybe this whole thing is thought of differently. What was his last year with San Francisco, Bubba, since you have that up right now?
2011. He's 33 years old.
I didn't want to misspeak, but when you said his numbers fell off a cliff with San Francisco, the one number that went up was championships.
Yep.
That 10
He won
squad.
two? He won two,
with
right?
with him and Burrell. No, just the one, just 2010.
What was it?
But that was the year that, of course, they beat the Phillies in the NLCS. And God, it hurt to watch two of our boys do us in like that. But what are you going to do? I appreciate you throwing Aaron Rowan out there, Brendan. Thank you for joining us here on your first episode. I appreciate you throwing Rowan in there and then just bailing on the thing.
Damn technology.
Would have definitely been cooler. Would have been definitely been cooler if you didn't come back at the end, but you know, what are you going to do? Welcome back.
I had to show my appreciation. Thanks for having me on. Sorry for all the tech issues, but been a slice of heaven, guys.
I appreciate it, guys. If you're watching this, do us a favor, click that like button, click that subscribe, smash the bell, leave a comment, whatever, and follow us on Instagram at BarkerBallMedia. Until next time, I'm Pat Barker. That's Brendan Flounders. That is Bubba. We'll see you guys. Go Phils.
Go Phils.
Go Phils.